and welcome to Tuesdays with Tammy. We have yet another amazing guest this week, and I'd like to introduce you to my dear friend, Hank Stewart. If you have ever read the work of an inspirational speaker and poet, Hank Stewart, then you might find that it's hard to believe that this profoundly talented writer did not scribe his first poem until May of 1991. Hank is a self-published writer who has been called a catalyst for action and a messenger of hope, considered spirituality, history, and love as his major influences for delving into the world of literature. Hank has performed at the Essence Music Festival, and he has written and performed commercials for the McDonald's Corporation called 365 Black. He has also written and performed African American poetic rendition commercials for Fox 5 Atlanta, which resulted in the winning of the 2007 Emmy, Promax, and Gabby Awards. I'd also like to add that Hank Stewart is the founder of the Hank Stewart Foundation, and he's also the founder of Walk Up Against the Call, which is an awareness walk to prevent breast cancer, raising more than $100,000. He is also the founder of the annual White Linen Affair, Hot Chocolate, Love Jones Sundays, and Five Men on a Stool. Hank's strong presence in the community afforded him the opportunity to register 15,000 voters. Hank really wants people to think. That's really what his mission is. He wants people to think, and he also wants you to get out and vote. So at this time, I'd like to welcome my guest, Hank Stewart. Hi, Hank. How are you?
Thank you, Tammy, for having me. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be here.
Good, good. I'm so excited to have you on too because you and I have always had some really great conversations, and I thought it was really important for us to share this with the world because I think that during our conversations, we come up with a lot of great ideas. And in order to implement these great ideas, we need to have other people on board to join the mission. And what better way to do that than to actually expand and share the information with people so that people who are interested in doing their part to support whatever it is that we have going on, they can be aware of it.
I totally agree, and I think it's synergy. We can't work in silos. We have to work as a united front and as a team. So I mean, no team, nobody. Michael Jordan didn't win championships by himself. You know what I mean? He needed some people with him. If you take Scotty away, you take Dennis Rodman, you take Phil Jackson away, you don't have championships. So we can't do it by ourselves.
That's right. That's right. You're exactly right. So let's dive right into what we want to talk about today. Right now, at this very moment, the world is really undergoing a lot because this is 2020, and we have run into the pandemic with COVID-19. We've also had the murder hornets. We've lost greats such as Kobe Bryant and his beautiful daughter Gianna. We are in an election year where it's like everything can literally depend on the outcome of this election. Like, which direction we go, which direction we continue to go, how do we begin repairing? And on top of that, police brutality seems to be at an all-time high, especially with what just recently happened to George Floyd. And I'd also like to mention Breonna Taylor. And although Ahmaud Arbery was not murdered by police brutality, it was wasn't he an ex-policeman or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
And they called themselves civilian vigilante. I'm not sure exactly what they called themselves, but they thought they were going to do a citizen's arrest. Instead, I think they got excited and did a citizen killing. So we're halfway through 2020 right now with the world being, shut down and sort of opening back up. And I wanted to talk to you about what are your views on where the world is right now, considering everything that has happened and with where we are now with police brutality and trying to heal from this?
Wow, that's a lot. And I'll say this, and I'll take this elephant in small bites. Okay, one is the pandemic. When we look at where we are in the pandemic, I other than people dying, I see it as God. God shut us down. He shut us down and he silenced us. Um, for me, Tammy, it has been an amazing 3.5 months because I literally took lemons and made lemonade out of them. I did things that I had not, I've been procrastinating about. I cleaned up, I purged, I was, for me, it was a time to really get back, get my center, get back to my center, right? And so for me, it's just been amazing. It's been phenomenal. I've written more poetry, I've performed more, I've cleaned up, I've had an opportunity to reflect. It's been phenomenal. And I haven't done that in next year will be 30 years as a poet, and I haven't done it in I know, in 2 decades. So for me, that was good. It's been good.
Yes.
The murders, is senseless. There are two names that I challenge my young people to never forget. One name is a guy by the name of Frank Wills. Frank Wills, he was a security guard in the Watergate. He wasn't supposed to even be at work that night. He was walking and he saw that one of the doors had jarred, and he called the police and found that there was people in there was still in planning documents in the Watergate, and that's how I brought down Richard Nixon.
Yes.
There's another young lady by the name of Darnella Frazier.
Okay.
Darnella Frazier was the young lady who videotaped the police officer, with his knee on George Floyd's neck. Had she not done that, we wouldn't be here now. Exactly. I mean, the world has changed because of Donzella. It wasn't because of, it was George Floyd, but it was also Darnella James, and we can never. Donzella Frazier. We can never forget her name, because that 17-year-old not done that, the world wouldn't be up in smoke. The world wouldn't. We would have never saw. We would have never. 8 minutes and 46 seconds wouldn't mean anything to us, right? But she was able to capture that for us and capture it in real time. The police brutality. We had another one this past weekend. We had Rashawn Brooks.
That's
Rashawn
right.
Brooks.
That's right.
At the
Wendy's.
Wendy's, right, sitting in the sleep. He might have been inebriated. That shouldn't be a death sentence. And so there's a lot of things that I just when you understand who you are and whose you are, and you understand God, you kind of see a lot of this is spiritual, because I think a lot of it is that we had to get back. I mean, there are some bad police officers, and we see they're calling it this weekend the blue flu, and that means police officers are calling in sick and things of that nature. Some of them need to leave. Some of them need to. Right. If you're leaving because you can't choke and use force, force on people, then maybe it's time for you to look. If your first act, particularly African Americans, because when you look at almost every case that I see a black man being killed, I can show you a video of a white person, being able to walk away.
Yeah.
I've seen situations where white men have taken the taser of a police officer and they walk away. I've seen white men shoot police officers and they were able to walk away and have that day in trial.
That's right.
And so, so it's just been, when I look at it, Tammy, I look at it, a lot of it is spiritual, and we have to get back to who we are and whose we are. It's just been, to me, I'm loving the young people. Let me say this. I can't say any of this without saying young people. I often tell you, and you and I have had these conversations on numerous occasions. I think we failed our young people. Our generation. If you're 45 to 65 years of age, you should take part in that. We failed our younger people.
Yeah.
And they have stepped up, and man, they are doing it. They are organized. I've been at 6-7 rallies. Yesterday was a rally, one going on now. And these young people are persistent, and they're showing up at the Capitol. They're talking about bills.
Yes.
So I'm loving it, man. Yes. I am. I'm excited.
Yes, I am too. And, I love the fact that you brought up the young lady's name who filmed the murder of George Floyd, because I don't think her name is out there enough. I think initially it needed to be George's name because he was like the pivoting point of like why everybody was in an uproar. And then secondly, we need to know who the cops were that murdered him or that stood by allowing him to be murdered. But I think as, things are shifting and we're doing our protesting, I think there wasn't enough time given to really learn who she was. And I remember seeing a video of her when she was crying and she was expressing how sad she felt and how traumatizing it was for her to actually experience watching that, but for her to be able to hold her composure the entire time she was videoing and not like take it away, because had she taken it away and then he still died, the cops would still have that argument of, but you didn't see what was on the tape, because she shifted away because she just thought, oh, I shouldn't show this anymore. And you just have their word against the people who were standing by, and that can become even more muddier. But you know what? Video does not lie. That video was clear as day, and I really, as much as I didn't want to watch it, and you can't really unsee it, I'm really glad that I did, and I'm really glad that America has had the opportunity to watch it as well.
The world.
Yes,
the world.
But it's still amazing how many people I see on social media that still want to argue the fact that, well, he had these charges against him, or he's been in trouble before, or he previously had COVID-19. Who the hell cares? You know what I mean? And you still see people saying, if you live in America, then you are privileged, like trying to balance that out. But those are the people who are refusing to acknowledge the injustices, the imbalance, the horrible treatment that Black people have received forever. And somebody posted something the other day, and I thought that is so clearly significant. If you dig a deep ditch 400 feet down or 400 miles down, you can't use a 50-foot ladder to climb out of there. So how do they expect us to climb out of this over 400 year period with a 50-foot year advance, or it's not even an advance, like after the fact, and come out equally as everybody else who's always been on top, right?
And even when you give us, and even when you give us a 50-foot ladder, you're pouring things on us. You're pouring hot grease on it.
You're dropping
all kind of obstacles. Right. Yeah, there's still all kind of obstacles.
Exactly.
That even with the 50-foot ladder, you know what I mean? You still take away certain things, so
right.
Yeah.
And that's just like when Obama got into office, right? So everybody wanted to give him a hard time and say he's not doing anything, he's not good or whatever. But look at what he was up against. And when you look at what he was up against and you see what he managed to get passed and to get done, then you have to give him his accolades. Yes, he probably would have liked to have gotten more things done. Yes, we would have wanted him to do more than what he did. But given the challenge and the walls that were placed before him, even before he walked into the office for the first time, you have to give him his props and know that he did what he could. And
if I can jump in right here, though, because here's why that is really significant. President Obama did more in his first 90 days than most presidents have ever done. Okay, so he was elected in 2008. He started to serve in 2009. Tammy.
Yes.
In 2010 was midterms. We didn't go back. Now in 2009, he got the Obamacare. That was huge. Mm-hmm. That was like Social Security. That was a huge bill pass. Huge. I mean, unprecedented. And people are still benefiting from it today, 12 years later. All right. So when you look at 2010, he lost because a lot of us didn't go back out to the, we typically don't vote in elections that's non-presidential. So the midterms, we didn't go back out to the midterms. Well, he ended up losing the Congress, the Senate. He ended up losing the Senate. He was reelected in 2012. Now, so you see what happens right now, because when you lose, you can have one part of Congress. If you lose the other, it starts to stifle you, right? So he was reelected in 2012, but then he lost the House in 2014. So when you when you talk about what he did not do, you have to talk about, that's like saying, tie my hands behind my back, right? And then I got to still fight you. My hands are tied, but I got to still beat you.
Yes.
So he did what he could do, and that a lot of that came through executive order, and things of that nature. But when I look at 2008 through 2016, I look at what did we not do? Had we sent Michelle Nunn, let's say a senator who was running for Senate, U.S. Senate from Georgia. Had we sent Michelle Nunn to Georgia along with a couple other people to D.C. along with a couple other people, President Obama would have had control of the Senate again, right? Then he could have appointed a Supreme Court justice, right? Mm-hmm. Now, let's fast forward. Had those senators been in place right now, they would have been the same senators who would have impeached Trump.
Yep. Yes. And one other thing, the other thing I want to point out is that so many people, Republicans, like to say Obama didn't do anything when he was in the White House. If Obama didn't do anything while he was in the White House, then what was it that Trump was spending all his time trying to undo time he got into the office? He's been undoing Obama stuff from the very beginning. I mean, he's still trying to undo things. I mean, one of the things he undid, or was at least working on undoing, was getting rid of the playbook that Obama's government put in place when he was in the White House. So if Obama wasn't doing anything, then what is it that Trump's been spending time undoing?
And I mean, and you look at even Michelle Obama, her healthy eating and attacking that for children. I mean, who would not want healthy eating for children? I mean,
they didn't think
about that
first.
Yeah. So that's that thing. I always say the wrong man can't do nothing right, and the right man can't do nothing wrong. When you're the wrong man, you can't do nothing right. Everything that you do is not going to be good. And to a lot, President Obama was the wrong man. He was the wrong right man. And so, but again, Tammy, one of the things that this is why this conversation is so important and so crucial is that I believe, like, when a drug addict, for a drug addict to get any type of recovery, he or she has to first admit there was a problem. Mm-hmm. You cannot go through recovery without admitting that you have a problem, because if somebody else brings you in for recovery and you haven't admitted, you're going to leave. You're not going to walk away any better. And I have to look at it. What do we do to hurt President Obama? What do we do to hurt this country? And the times that we just don't get up, we don't deem it. And let's leave the federal level alone. Let's talk about let's go from a local level. Let's start at when you don't get up and go to vote for the school board. Right. Don't get mad because your children don't have anything. When you don't get up and go vote for county commissioners or the sheriffs, don't get mad when you don't have a sheriff that looks like you. When you don't get up and go and vote for the mayor, when you don't vote for city council or the CEO of a county like Michael Thurman, if you don't get up and if you don't know your state representative, your state senator, don't complain about anything, because all politics are local. When you vote for your school board, I see more immediate changes when I vote on a local level than I see on a federal level. Exactly. The federal level has got to come down, but local level can be implemented today.
Yes.
With me, it can be implemented today.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Wow. So, let's go ahead and shift over to talk about police reform. A lot of people have been yelling, defund the police. My thoughts are, don't necessarily defund them, but reform them. In reforming them, you can reallocate some monies to other areas and cut out certain programs that, don't really support what's necessary in the moment. But a lot of people here, when they hear defund the police, they're hearing that we don't want the police at all.
And that's not true.
I know. And I was going to say, that's not where I'm coming from. And I think most
people know we need police in place. Everybody in jail is not innocent, but everybody in jail is not guilty either, but vice versa. Right. So, so there are people who, so I get it. I think you need to rejuvenate or recreate that brand, not defund, but, reform. Right. I think that's what we should be looking at.
If you were going to reform the police, what are some things you would start with? And so once you say a couple of things, then I'll give you a couple of things that I would like to add.
Okay, I think one being, I think we have to look at there are things that should not be criminalized, right? Like so when you look at right now, no other person should ever go to jail with a smaller amount of weed. That should just not happen. I mean,
that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It costs so much more for them to be in jail,
Right. So weed is one that should not be criminalized,
especially when it's becoming legal in most states.
That's
The
my
people
point,
that are
and
in
now it's
now
becoming
need
legal.
to get out.
And don't start me. That's a whole nother discussion because you've criminalized a whole population of men,
Mm-hmm.
and now you're legalizing it, and somebody else is making the money now. You
Yes.
with me?
Yes.
So that's a whole nother debate for me right there because
Yeah.
that really pisses me off.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think, and I think we got to look at relationships. I think community policing is what it really should be. And community policing meaning, find people who live in the community and let them police folk. Because if they're there, I think that is real crucial. I know my police officer. I know the police officers in DeKalb County. I'm very good friends with the chief. You know what I mean? So you get to
Oh,
know folk and you do things differently. So I think community policing is important.
so when you said community policing, you weren't talking about uh, civilian policing like in the Ahmaud Arbery situation. You're talking about the community police, the police,
Right.
like create and be open to relationships with them,
Exactly.
and not
That's the
yeah.
21st century police. That's Obama's 21st century police, and it's a part of it.
Okay.
That's a part of what it
Okay.
is. There are parts of Atlanta where police officers are giving they're giving a house in the community, right? And it's in the around the near, not too far from the dome. They're giving a house, so they live in the
Okay.
community. They are part of the community, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they've shown where just having your police car, it actually deters some of that crime and things of that nature. So it's a partnership. It's not overseer. It's a partnership between law enforcement and community.
Okay. All right. So I like your 2 points. I'm going to add 2 points, and then if you have some more to add, then add them after this. But I would say demand better and longer training for recruits. Right now,
No doubt.
Policemen, I think, get like 11 weeks of training to deal with people with substance abuse, people with mental health illnesses, people who are just evil. And I mean, there's so many different things, right? How are they supposed to be 100% great at policing all those various elements after only 11 weeks of training? When, as a mental health therapist, I can tell you, I mean, I've gone through 8 years of graduate school and bachelor's and my master's, and then even to get a substance abuse certification, I'd still have to go through another year-long training for that, and then be tested after all of that stuff. Police go through 11 weeks. And then, that's to include de-escalation tactics. That's, of course, trying to make sure they're physically fit. I think too much is focused on whether or not the policeman is physically fit and whether or not they can answer, I don't know if it's multiple choice or A or B, questions on like, well, if you're in this situation, what do you do? But they need to be trained on why certain things work better than others. And anyways, I could just go on and on with that. So the next thing I would say would prioritize non-lethal ways of apprehending non-violent suspects. I think too many times they get trigger happy, especially in our community. It's so interesting how it seems to be, more weighted on one side than the other. But I believe if they are trained to not feel as if that they need to just go to the ultimate answer, which is to pull their guns and to shoot, then maybe they'll be less likely to do it. And some people might want to argue, but then their lives are in danger. What if the person has a gun and they kill them? Okay, well, first of all, they will have been trained to de-escalate, first of all. Make sure that the person that they're trying to apprehend understands that, they are just they're doing their jobs and they want to get to the bottom of the answer. They're not so quick to want to I want to arrest you and take you to jail and have your car impounded and shoot you. I think if, for example, let's use Rayshard as an example. Rayshard was so polite in the beginning. If you watch that video, he was almost endearing. You could tell he was inebriated, but you were like, oh, I mean, listen to him. He's just like, I'm trying to cooperate. But as soon as they decided to turn him around and put the handcuffs on him, whether he had a warrant out for his arrest, as some people might want to argue, or not, his first thoughts were all this stuff that's been in the news. I might not make it to the jailhouse. I might not.
And they never said he had an award. They never said
They never
they had a
said
warrant or
what,
anything.
yeah, they
So
never said what they were going to
yeah.
arrest him for. And so in that case, not only did they have his car with his his license plate, I'm sure if they were operating from what is usually them trained to be doing is get the driver's license. They know who he is. Um, they know that he can't run too far because he's drunk. I mean, he's probably going to trip and fall before he gets too far. So what? So okay, so
But Tammy, that's one major piece to that too, though. He was not driving. You didn't catch him driving. Someone called you,
yeah,
right? Someone called him, and it's like usually drunk drivers you catch them driving while drunk.
right.
So he hadn't even committed a crime, basically.
Except to
You
pull out of
understand
the
what?
line and pull into a parking spot at their
Exactly
request.
right. Exactly
You know,
right.
I mean, they could
Exactly right.
argue that, well, how'd you get in this line? But either way, the point I'm trying to make is that if they prioritized non lethal ways to apprehend him, then he might still be alive. If they actually, because the officer, I will say this, the officer was nice when he was questioning him, but I felt like the officer was trying to see, like, what can I do to get this guy riled up? Because, let me see how long can I keep him before he gets annoyed. I mean, that I'm keeping him this long. It was like, what, 20 minutes? So when he asked him certain questions and he's like, he can make the decision. I feel like the guy's inebriated anyways. Just say, hey, listen, guy, listen, dude, I understand what your story is, but I cannot let you drive now. And, I'm going to have to just, even I don't think he necessarily needed to take him down to the station. But if that's what you're going to do, say, listen, I know there's a lot of BS going on right now between cops and citizens. I don't want you to be afraid of us, okay? Just let me handcuff you. I need to put you under arrest, whatever reason he wanted to say. But I just want to let you know I'm one of the good cops. Maybe that would have made him feel a little bit more like, okay, let me just let him take me. But instead, he's got all these images in his head because everybody knows about it at this point. I mean, unless they had their head under a rock, maybe he wouldn't have tried to run. But even when he did, like I said, they had all that other stuff. They could have just let him go and caught him later. Period.
And to speak to your point, there's technology now, that if he ran, let him run. There's technology. There's technology now where police officers shouldn't chase another car because too many other people are in danger.
Yes.
So they have a way of shooting something or rubber something, and it on the back of the trunk of the other car, the car in front,
right,
to be able to find out where that car is going to track it electronically. So there's, electronics is a major part to where we are right now. So you're absolutely right. I think that's major. I think the big thing for me, I would love to see, I only have one more thing that I would love to see, and that's ending the blue code. The blue code to me is really what is hurting the relationship between community and policing because we're both cops. I can't tell on you for doing anything wrong, right?
Right.
And so that code that they have between them, and I understand they need to have a trust between them, but not that code is costing a lot of people's lives, and it's hurting a lot of communities. It's hurting a lot of relationships because I know you're doing wrong, right? I mean, you got situations where you have police officers who are raping women, who are stealing money,
yeah,
peddling drugs, all these other things,
too. Yep.
right? And because of the code, you're not going to tell on them. You know what I mean? And so you got police officers. And so when we talk about today, these police officers who are taking what they call the blue flu, I see that as a good thing. Matter of fact, instead of calling out, won't you go in and leave? Because anybody, to want to leave because you can't choke somebody, excessive force, come on. To want to leave, to call out because
or because they want to support, or because they want to support their other blue friend who did and show solidarity.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, that's like that's that whole. I don't have that type of loyalty to wrong. You know what I mean? I don't have that type of loyalty to wrong.
Right.
So.
Well, listen, I think that's going to be our time for today. So, you know what? I'd love to continue our conversation and have you on again for another week because there's so much that we can talk about. But are there any parting words that you'd like to add before we end this show today?
Well, just one big thank you, because I think enough of these conversations are not had, and whoever hears this, I think we just gave them another perspective. And I think these conversations are so crucial to where we are. It's not the major networks and all of that that's changing this culture, and it's not the major networks that is getting people out on the streets. It's these small conversations where friends are joining friends in the picketing. And so these grassroots conversations are so important. So thank you for having me on.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, friends. So that's it for our show today. I'd like to thank you so much for joining me once again. Please be sure to catch Tuesdays with Tammy every Tuesday at 10 a.m. And I want to leave you with this message. Be better today than you were yesterday, and be better tomorrow than you are today. That's it. Thank you for joining us. And please be sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications so you can be notified of every new show. Have a great day. If you'd like to be a guest on Tuesdays with Tammy, please contact me at www.tammyvaughn.com.